Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand.
She might have a lawsuit too.
Singer Dawn Richard testifies that Sean Diddy Combs hit Cassie Ventura with a skillet full of eggs.
You got to go back to the drugs and the alcohol, man. The drugs and the alcohol, man. And
what does it take to silence a courtroom? Dawn Richard's testimony about Cassie's alleged abuse by Diddy left everyone speechless. Get ready for the bombshell revelations that pulled the curtain back on an unimaginable reality.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist what.
Dawn Richard's testimony hit the courtroom like a lightning bolt. A former member of Danity Kane, the girl group formed under Diddy's management, Dawn wasn't just a past collaborator. She had a close-up view of how things worked in Diddy's world. That made her testimony one of the most important parts of the trial's first week. People expected her to share a few insights, but the details she revealed completely shocked the room. What did she say about Cassie's alleged abuse that made the entire courtroom go silent? Dawn's connection to Diddy and Cassie wasn't just through work, it was deeply personal. As a member of Danity Kane, she worked directly with Diddy and saw him and the people around him almost every day. Cassie, of course, was his longtime girlfriend, and from the outside, their relationship looked glamorous. But Dawn's testimony showed a much darker side of what really happened behind closed doors. Her words added weight to the rumors of abuse that had followed Diddy and Cassie for years. When it was Dawn's turn to speak, the energy in the room changed. She described times when she allegedly saw Diddy's angry outbursts, which made everyone around him feel tense and nervous. According to her, these outbursts were often aimed at Cassie, who seemed to suffer the most. Dawn made it clear that she wasn't just repeating gossip. She had personally seen these things happen. She had watched it all herself. She talked in detail about one moment that left the courtroom silent. Without quoting anything directly, she described a fight where Diddy reportedly yelled at Cassie so harshly that her physical reaction showed how much pain it caused. But it wasn't just the yelling. It was his threatening tone and how he allegedly twisted every situation to make Cassie feel like she had no control. For Dawn, that moment stuck in her memory. She said it was just one of many times when Cassie seemed trapped under Diddy's control. What made Dawn's words even more powerful was how she said them. Her voice reportedly held both anger and sadness, as if she had been holding this in for years. Legal experts said that this kind of first-hand account can be very powerful in a trial. It's one thing to hear general accusations, but it's very different to hear a witness describe exact moments they lived through. For the jury, stories like this bring the claims to life in a way that's hard to ignore. Diddy's reaction to her testimony was also telling. As Dawn spoke, reporters said his body language changed. He looked defensive, like he hadn't expected her to be so honest. He shifted in his seat, his face grew tense, and he leaned in to whisper to his legal team. He didn't interrupt, but it was clear he didn't like what she was saying, and it made sense why. Her testimony wasn't just hurting his public image, it was giving serious support to Cassie's claims. But the moment that truly hit the hardest, both for the jury and for people following the case, was when Dawn reportedly said that she believed Cassie spent most of her time just trying to survive. Those 5 words hit like a punch, capturing years of alleged emotional and physical abuse in one painful sentence. This wasn't just about arguments or control, it was about a woman who had apparently lived in constant fear and didn't know how to escape. Dawn's testimony wasn't just another story, it was a major turning point in the trial. It created a ripple effect that would likely shape how the jury sees Diddy moving forward. Her account fit into the larger story the prosecution was building, and it gave the case even more strength, something the defense would now have a hard time fighting against. As the first week of the trial came to an end, Dawn's words still hung in the air. They weren't just memories, they were a spotlight shining on a situation that had stayed hidden for far too long. And with more people expected to testify in the coming days, including others close to Cassie and Diddy, the courtroom is preparing for even more explosive revelations. What's next for this trial? Only time will tell. But for now, Dawn's powerful testimony has set the tone for what could become a landmark case in the world of celebrity justice.
Celebrity justice.
If she witnessed, and she's saying that she witnessed a gangbang, which actually we know it as called a train. And she worked on the album, The Train to Paris. And like I heard one of the YouTube, it could be Tistel, say that we didn't know what the train to Paris meant. But now we know that the train to Paris was a train in Scotland. It wasn't a train in Paris, it was a train in Scotland. Every time I have a witness doing something is when 2 guys and 2 girls will go in the room. And that was just regular. And however they did it, whatever they did, that was their business. But he'd gotten bold enough, whereas that he would do that in front of Dawn and other people at a poolside in Scotland. You sure it was Scotland, man?
Danity Kane alum Don Richard, who began working with Sean Diddy Combs while competing on his show Making the Band in 2004, took the stand after Cassie wrapped her testimony May 16th. Richard joined Combs' group Diddy Dirty Money after Danity Kane disbanded. While on the stand, she told jurors that she saw Combs hit Ventura with a skillet full of eggs at his Los Angeles home in 2009. Richard testified per NBC News. He came downstairs asking where his phone was, and he threw her to the ground. He attempted to kick her. She fell to the ground and went into the fetal position, literally trying to hide her head. In addition to striking Ventura with the skillet, Richard said Combs put his arm around the singer's neck and took her upstairs before she heard glass breaking. Richard added, "I was scared for her."
The courtroom drama reached a new level when a shocking piece of evidence was introduced, an audio recording featuring Cassie. In the clip, she's reportedly heard threatening a Diddy associate who supposedly had video of a heated fight. As the recording played, the mood in the courtroom changed instantly. What could be on the tape that made even the jurors visibly shaken? This audio marked a major turning point in the trial. It didn't just show more of the toxic nature of Cassie and Diddy's relationship, it revealed the emotional chaos both seemed trapped in. As the recording played, everyone in the room could hear the raw emotion in Cassie's voice. She sounded desperate, furious, and overwhelmed. Legal experts described her words as the voice of someone completely worn down by years of conflict and pain. Her threats didn't sound planned. They sounded like the breaking point of someone who had endured too much. Here's what we know. Cassie's voice is heard speaking to a man believed to be a close associate of Diddy. This man reportedly had video proof of a violent incident between Cassie and Diddy. In the recording, Cassie's voice wavers between anger and determination as she demands answers and makes threats to protect herself. The recording showed how deep the damage ran, not just in their personal relationship, but among the people who worked for Diddy, too. That emotional chaos, especially the fear of being exposed, made it impossible for jurors and spectators to look away. Why would Cassie reach such a desperate point, threatening someone connected to Diddy? Experts following the trial explained that this kind of behavior is common in abusive relationships. Years of manipulation, emotional instability, and feeling isolated can drive someone to the edge. To outsiders, these moments might seem irrational, But for those trapped in abusive situations, they are often just signs of someone finally breaking down. One legal analyst said the recording added more layers to the story. It didn't just support the idea of an abusive relationship, it showed that Cassie had lived in a constant fight or flight state. Her emotional reactions became more intense over time. This wasn't just about one outburst, it was about the years of control, pain, and fear behind it. You could hear it in her voice. It wasn't revenge, it was survival. For the jury, this recording made things more complicated. It added to the seriousness of the claims against Diddy. At the same time, it forced them to understand where Cassie was emotionally. Was the tape proof of her suffering? Maybe not by itself, but when you connect it to Dawn Richards' testimony and other accounts, it paints a clearer picture of a deeply toxic relationship. Still, the recording raised new questions. Diddy's legal team is expected to argue that Cassie's emotional outburst weakens her credibility. They might try to show her as unstable, hoping to make the jury doubt her entire story. That approach is common in high-profile defense cases, and it's likely they won't stop at just this tape. Rumors say they'll look into Cassie's mental health and past to attack her credibility. Even more. But here's the real issue. This tape wasn't just one angry moment, it was about everything that led to it. For years, Diddy was seen as untouchable in the music industry. Cassie, on the other hand, was just known as his quiet girlfriend, someone who rarely spoke up in public. This recording shattered that image. The courtroom didn't just hear Cassie's anger, they heard a woman fighting to take back control in a relationship where she had almost none. What happens next could change everything. Will the defense double down on trying to discredit Cassie, or will more witnesses, recordings, or evidence dig deeper into the truth about their relationship? One thing is certain, the jury is no longer just watching a trial, they're watching a painful story of power, control, and emotional destruction, and the next move could change everything.
Bring up into the lawsuit that Diddy stopped the way that she was working and how she could work by the fact that he would change, like you just said. What she would do, bro, he would turn off her mic and don't let her sing songs or don't let her do certain things, a part of the band, when he do her sexual advancements. I don't know what to say about that, brother. All I can say is that, you know, all of it sounds like using his power. He's using his power to get at people that works for him. And when you do that, when they bring you to court, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lose if they can prove it.
One text message, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you."
We know now that she called herself Cece for Cassie Combs. We know now that she wanted to have a child with him.
Jurors also heard an audio recording where Cassie could be heard threatening to kill a Diddy associate who had video of one of her freak-offs with Diddy.
The jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised.
Cassie was asked about receiving a FaceTime from her now husband while she was having sex with Diddy.
I think they're trying to use what they can, again, to discredit.
The defense team tried to shift focus onto Cassie's past, hoping it would discredit her. At first, it seemed like a calculated move. They brought up her time in rehab, her PTSD, and a past rape allegation, aiming to show she was emotionally unstable and unreliable. The idea was to weaken her testimony by painting her as someone who couldn't be trusted. But instead of damaging her credibility, this strategy added new depth to her story, maybe even more than the defense expected. By exposing her past trauma, they accidentally highlighted how someone like Diddy could exploit those vulnerabilities. Rather than making her look unstable, it showed how emotionally fragile she was, and how that made it easier for Diddy to control her. One of the key moments in court was the introduction of personal text messages between Cassie and Diddy. In one of them, she wrote, "I'm lost without you." The defense used this to show she was emotionally dependent, trying to prove their relationship, though rocky, was mutual and consensual. But trauma experts pointed out that this type of emotional attachment is actually common among abuse survivors. It doesn't mean they weren't suffering. It means they were manipulated into thinking they had no other choice. Cassie's texts were read aloud in court, alongside arguments from the defense that her emotional state made her testimony unreliable. This kind of approach is often used to tear down the credibility of abuse victims, especially when a powerful figure is on trial. The strategy involves pointing out inconsistencies, using personal history, and creating just enough doubt to sway the jury. But in Cassie's case, this tactic may have backfired. Instead of weakening her story, it added emotional weight to it. It made the jury see her as someone who had truly suffered, someone who was trying to survive in a deeply manipulative relationship. By forcing Cassie to relive those painful memories, the defense may have unintentionally brought more attention to the emotional control Diddy allegedly held over her. Given the huge power imbalance in their relationship, Cassie's past now looks more like a result of that dynamic than a reason to question her. Many trial watchers felt that these revelations about Cassie's mental health and past added credibility to her allegations. Her PTSD and time in rehab were no longer signs of weakness. They were evidence of the toll that being with Diddy may have taken on her. Instead of creating doubt, this line of questioning raised new questions. How much of Cassie's emotional suffering was caused by the relationship itself? The defense likely wanted to distract from earlier damaging testimony, but by focusing on Cassie's past, they accidentally created a fuller picture of her struggle and Diddy's alleged control. This shift in courtroom tone is now affecting how the jury sees the entire case. It's no longer just about text messages or one person's word. It's about long-term patterns of behavior, deep power imbalances, and the emotional scars left behind. And with more witnesses coming forward, including members of Danity Kane and people from Diddy's inner circle, the story's only getting more complicated. Whether they meant to or not, the defense's attempt to discredit Cassie may have only strengthened her case. As the trial continues, each new testimony has the power to peel back another layer of this already explosive case.
We're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. You know, the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual.
The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear.
That Ventura had a choice and that she chose to participate in those sexual encounters.
Where she is entertaining other people in the bedroom. He enjoyed having the freak-offs.
She's being asked specifically about the drug use.
She is clearly excited about.
Aubrey O'Day is the next person everyone's watching in this dramatic trial. A former member of Danity Kane, she's stepping up to give her version of life under Diddy's management. What she knows, what she saw, these are the questions everyone is eager to hear answered when she takes the stand, and she's not alone. Former employees, some who were close to Diddy both professionally and personally, are also ready to testify. Each new witness adds another piece to this puzzle, and it's becoming harder and harder to look away. The impact of multiple witnesses can't be overstated. Dawn, Richard's testimony already shook the courtroom. Her account of Cassie's alleged abuse made the jury take a second look at Diddy's carefully protected image. Now, with Aubrey O'Day expected to testify, those same themes of control and emotional abuse could come into even sharper focus. Aubrey brings a different perspective. She worked closely with Diddy during the height of Danity Kane's success. She's seen what happened behind closed doors. And she's never been shy about criticizing Diddy's intense and high-pressure leadership style. She hasn't directly accused him of abuse in the past, but her willingness to speak out has many wondering what she'll reveal now. If her story supports what Cassie and Dawn have already shared, it could make it much harder for the defense to argue that these are isolated events. That's the power of multiple testimonies. They form a chain of stories, individual pieces that connect to show a clear, repeated pattern. Dawn, for example, described moments where Cassie seemed shaken and stressed after being on the receiving end of Diddy's alleged outbursts. She emphasized how controlling and toxic the relationship felt from the outside. That alone was powerful. Now, with Aubrey testifying next, the jury could begin to view this not as one incident, but as part of something bigger. And once that pattern is established, it's much harder to claim these were just misunderstandings or one-time mistakes. Even more striking is the expected testimony from Diddy's former employees. These weren't just people in his social circle. They were part of his daily operations. They may have been involved, knowingly or not, in covering up the abuse or managing its fallout. Their testimony could provide key details about what really went on when the cameras weren't rolling. Did they witness anything directly? Did they ever feel pressured to stay silent? Those answers could be crucial. Just their presence in court raises questions. Why are they speaking out now? What pushed them to come forward? Legal experts say that the more people who testify, the more credible the case becomes, especially when the witnesses come from different backgrounds. Cassie offers a personal view. The former employees offer a professional one. Together, their stories make it harder for the defense to challenge the narrative. Aubrey's testimony could be the next big moment in this trial. Many believe she may bring up how Diddy controlled professional situations in ways that mirrored his alleged control over Cassie. If true, that would show this wasn't just about one relationship. It was a broader pattern of behavior.